Welcome to the Humanist Skills Project. Now, we are continuing our conversation from the previous episode. In the last episode, we have talked about that how TED's model can be applied to almost any situation to resolve conflict, and as we say that it's a human skill. Now, Ted, um, you are our advisor for World School of Bangladesh, and I would like to know from you. I'm going to give you scenarios one by one, and and then you and I would have conversation which we can share with our parents that how the law of cooperative action helps us see clearly to be able to help our children raise responsibly, where they take accountability. And at the same time, we adults, whether we are parents or whether we are teachers, we also celebrate the children, students, teenagers, like, their right to be who they are. So I will give you one scenario and then you can start discussing. So one of the things that in Bangladesh, and I'm telling you with my 28 years of teaching experience, starting, from absolutely elementary level, up to university. So one of the challenges that when students come to classroom, I am the teacher. I somewhat start not recognizing that that I cannot really own a student. I cannot really dictate a student. If I want the student to do well, to have their entire potential to be explored, I will need to be able to respect the child for their individuality. Now, it sounds foreign to a lot of parents, not only in Bangladesh, to a lot of places in the world. So, can you speak to that, please?
Yes, I think it's really important because again, tenet number one was about how everyone wants to be recognized, celebrated, and loved. And that's from a small age. As soon as a child understands its consciousness that it is separate, that it does have, you know, it's look at me, look at me, look at me. And it's funny because as parents, we have this ownership thing sometimes. Like I do an example in the book about the fact that when our child is born, we create a photo album of their entire life. And I'm sure it's really prevalent in Bangladesh because
Mhm.
it's so here's what my child looks like, here's what they're born, here's who they're going to marry, here's the job they're going to get, here's what they're going to do. Well, the child has their own photo album of what they believe their future is. And the difficult time where conflict comes into play is when both are trying to live their own photo album without meshing parts of their photo album together.
Mhm.
And it's like I use this in my seminars, the term act your age,
Mhm.
right? The little kid says, I'm 5 years old. I'm 5 year olds. I pick my nose. I eat it. That's what I do. I'm 5 years old. Leave me alone.
Mhm.
And we perceive that certain people should be acting a certain way at a certain age instead of celebrating the individual and what they do. Some will be a little faster, some will be a little slower, some will learn differently. Now, you talked about education system. I believe
Mhm.
that the education system I was brought up with, and I'm
Mhm.
77,
Mhm.
and this memory,
Mhm.
rote, memorize, sit up straight, or I'm going to slap your hands.
Mhm.
You answer this, you answer that. I still don't know half the stuff that, or remember half the stuff that I was taught in school because I think what you have to do nowadays, first of all, is because of the internet and computer, everything should be in 6 to 12 minute bites, like really fast, right? You also have to be you have to be entertaining a bit.
Mhm.
You have to be human.
Mhm.
And I remember when I was younger and I saw one of my teachers in a washroom for the first time, and I thought, oh my God, they do what I do. Because right, we put them on this pedestal. And so I think the biggest thing I can say to parents and teachers is
Mhm.
be human, relate, um,
And,
relate
and
to
and how do you do that, Ted? I mean, I'm giving you even a bit more, let's say some of the challenges as the head of academics of World School of Bangladesh. It is my responsibility to write the educational materials, train the teachers, talk to the parents. And one of the things that I tell to our parents that what you just said at the moment, that you are 77, but you are also a grandfather, and I have seen that how lovingly you cherish your grandchildren. Like when you talk about Zach, when you talk about Emily, I have seen you lighting up. Now, when I when I try to teach children, like in one of the challenges that happens that I tell the parents and also particularly the teachers that treat a child like a dignified human being. Do not make them feel that they're some kind of criminals that they need to be tried, let's say. And if you give them that feeling, in that case they will be afraid to do even a mistake. So I'm not, and again, I once again reiterate, we are not saying about permissive,
no.
liberal, how do I say that? We want our kids to take accountability. But if we do not give respect and dignity to a child just because, we are talking to a child, can a child thrive?
Yeah, and a good example
Mm,
is let's say I was giving you a Martian,
mhm,
because kids are Martians.
mhm,
Kids are from another planet.
mhm,
They're learning, touching, feeling, eating. They're absorbing at an amazing rate everything that's around them.
mhm,
So let's say I give you a Martian
mhm,
and I say your job is to socialize this Martian
mhm,
to the Earth.
mhm,
So you say to the Martian, okay, we're going to Uncle Harry's or Aunt Edna's tonight. Now, socially in this world, you don't touch anything until you're told or given permission to touch something, right?
mhm, mhm,
So the Martian goes,
mhm,
and then you go over to that house, and the Martian looks around, and the Martian touches something.
mhm,
Now, what we're used to doing is we would go, I told you,
mhm,
don't touch.
mhm,
You listen to me. You
mhm.
behave.
That's right. That's right.
Would you do that to a Martian, or would you say to the Martian, "Oh, no, 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 listen, I did tell you not to do that. So we need to revisit this. We need to talk." So and then you teach.
Mhm,
You don't discipline
mhm,
first.
mhm,
I think one of the problems with our parenting and even teachers, because teachers, when you're in a room with 25, 30 kids
mhm,
and you've got several that act up,
mhm,
it's very difficult because you want the lesson to be taught.
mhm.
So everybody's got to be the same.
Yeah, but Ted, you have mentioned something. It is so critical. Last week in the United States, they published their all of United States literacy, and they showed that it is at the lowest in the last 50 years.
I can
Now,
believe it. I
I
can believe
can
it.
now, no, that, now, please let us, and I say this to parents that look, you need to understand something. The education system through which we are educating our children, it was developed 200 years ago when industrial revolution happened. At that time, the industry needed to train workers who are going to come to school, sit down, listen quietly, and they are going to obey. They want to go to the washroom. Everything needs to be obeyed. Okay. But this is a way you literally destroy a child's ability to question, to understand, to create, to think. And most importantly, we are literally emotionally stunting our kids. I can tell you, Ted, again, coming from an experience like that long, is that kids are not allowed to express. And that is why when they're suppressing all that feeling, that's called depression. It is becoming epidemic, not only in Bangladesh, it is at a global scale. Now, here's something. So there is a professor at university at Princeton. He studies the technology and attention. And he says, and obviously evidentially it's proven, that there was a point in time when humans made money by mining the oil and gas and all of that to make money. Okay, got it. But now the world's most profitable companies, they make money by mining our attention. So they don't have a choice. I love it when you said it that we have to be entertaining. We have to be, I want to use the word engagement. We
Engagement.
need,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Good word.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I,
Yeah.
I, I want to say, and this is why we have introduced, and again, a lot of it came from my conversation with you, is that, like, for example, I have seen you doing the seminars where you're not like a conventional speaker. You laugh, you are joyful, you engage people, and all of that. So all of the joy, all of that, fun makes people open up. So yeah, so when I go to the class, and if I'm like this dictatorial, that policing, that I am here to discipline you, and so that professor is saying, hold up, you don't need anymore a pilot to fly the plane. You don't need anymore a driver to drive a taxi. If you want your child at the moment to shine, if more than ever that you let that child understand what it means to be human,
That's right.
that's
We
where your
don't
expertise
we,
comes.
we don't allow our kids to have a bad day.
Yeah.
We can have a bad day.
Hmm.
Most adults will call in and say to their employer, "Oh,
Hmm.
I don't feel myself today, so I'm going to do a me day. I'm going to stay home."
Hmm.
Can you imagine if your kid said, "I'm not going to school today because I just don't quite feel like engaging with all the other people"?
Hmm. Hmm.
It
No,
wouldn't
no,
happen,
no, no. Wouldn't happen. Wouldn't happen.
you know. And we've got and we can go into this anytime you want. I've got two examples. One,
Mm,
or a school
mm,
example,
mm.
and using feel, felt, found.
Yeah, you have worked in
Bible
many
school.
schools. Can you give some examples, please?
Well, for example, you're the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a bunch of let's say grade tens,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're a good teacher. You're
Mm-hmm.
one of the ones that are really good. And this kid comes in, and the kids are coming in. You're saying, hi George, hi Feroz, hi Ahmed, hi whatever the name is.
Mm-hmm.
And the one kid comes in, and the kid's having, he's a little tough, and he basically, you say, hey, good morning, and I'll use you. Good morning, Feroz.
Mm-hmm.
And Feroz gives you half the peace sign and
Mm-hmm.
says, screw off, teacher. He'll
Mm-hmm.
use other words, but screw off, teacher. Now, normally
Mm-hmm.
in a school setting, it's like, how dare you talk to me like that?
Mm-hmm.
How dare you? Don't you know respect? You better respect your teachers. And I also believe, as a side,
Mm-hmm.
respect is earned. It's not through
Yeah.
title, it's earned. And so, you better respect me. You go to the principal's office,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be down to deal with you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know whether that young kid
Mm-hmm.
just got bullied in the schoolyard.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know whether that young kid just saw his mother or father in an alcoholic stupor.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know whether that young kid just found out that his grandmother, his best friend, is just diagnosed with terminal cancer.
That's right.
All we know is how that young kid interacted with me at that moment.
That's right.
So if we use feel, felt, found,
Mm-hmm.
if we use this concept of understanding, where you're coming from, first
Mm-hmm.
of all,
Mm-hmm.
you don't do that. You don't center the child out
Mm-hmm.
in the classroom, because when you say, how dare you do that, all the kids behind the behind you, when
Mm-hmm.
you're talking to the child, are going to the child and going, hey, do this to the teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're prodding him on,
Mm-hmm.
and he can't back down now because he'll lose face with all his other friends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you pull him aside
Mm-hmm.
in the corner, have someone look after the class, and you say very calmly and quietly, wow, what did I do to you to get you to do this to me this morning? Because if I did something to you,
Mhm.
I apologize.
Mhm.
Now, see, even if I know I didn't, yesterday in class, I could have inadvertently, tenet number two,
Mhm.
inadvertently said or done something that harmed him.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't know that until
Mhm.
he comes to me. So I would say, what did I do to you? Because if I did something to harm you,
Mhm.
to cause you to do that, I apologize. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
And the student might say, no, you didn't do anything. It's all right. It's not you.
Mhm.
Because if he does say, yeah, yesterday you said this, now we can deal with it.
Mhm.
But if he said, no, it's not you, and say, well, look at, I don't know what's going on in your life, and unless you want to share with me, I don't want to know. But the only thing I can tell you is this:
Mhm.
there's a decorum in my classroom.
Mhm.
So if you come in tomorrow
Mhm.
and you do the same thing,
Mhm.
I am going to have to escalate it, and you are going to have to go to the principal's office.
Ted,
Make this,
here is one of the context difference. Sorry, go on, go on.
yeah, just the final part of this.
Mhm.
But I will tell you this: if you come in tomorrow and you feel badly and something's going on in your life, and you need to tell somebody to screw off,
Mhm.
just say to me, sir, can I talk to you a second in the corner? Screw off,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I'll be there for you.
Mhm.
You see what I mean? You wrap it all up.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I see. Unlike North America, and this is again talking to our parents directly, is that Bangladesh is a country where we do not have that problem, and I'll tell you why. Because we, and this is what your tenet number one, that appreciate, celebrate somebody's individuality. In our school system, without disrespecting any institution or naming an institution, I can tell you that we are almost kind of a death trap to kill the student's individuality. And what you said is so important, that respect is earned. So what happens, we are seeing that the teachers, I'm not specifically talking about our school, generally, it is expected that the teacher will walk into a classroom and immediately all the students will have to obey.
That's right.
Yeah. And what
Now it's
happened?
interesting. It's interesting because you say that when my daughters were going to high school, the one high school which was public, and I'm not sure, is Bangladesh mostly uniformed?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So it isn't the same way here. It's a Catholic school system in
yeah,
Canada,
yeah.
but this public school
Mm-hmm.
is in an inner city. So they thought it would be wise to put uniforms in everybody so the more wealthy, didn't upshine the poor.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what happened? So the year they put uniforms in this school,
Mm-hmm.
guess what changed? Guess what changed, Mr. Academic? I mean, think.
Mm-hmm.
What would change because now everybody's in uniform?
Their individuality got compromised because people, how they dress, that is how they express who they are.
So yeah, so
Yeah,
I've talked to people, I've given people
yeah,
this
yeah,
scenario,
yeah.
and they've said,
Mm-hmm.
well, their grades improved,
Mm-hmm.
the discipline was better. And no, none of that changed. None of that changed. What changed was hair color,
Mm-hmm.
accessories,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the keys with children, they want to be seen as different and individual,
Mm-hmm.
but not too different and too individual that they're going to get teased,
Mm-hmm.
which is another problem because we got to teach all of the 98%
Mm-hmm.
not to tease the 2% who might be different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because again, you're stifling their individuality.
That's right. And what you just said is very well substantiated and documented by a French sociologist and philosopher, Pierre Bourdieu, and he has worked extensively in the school system. Exactly what you said, that this is how society works. You want to be different, distinct, but not so different that you cannot fit to the group anymore. Now, and this is what something is very important, like in Bangladeshi context, understand that, and this is and we are talking to, so in World School of Bangladesh, what we have started doing is we use a learning and teaching system. It's called PACE, Personalized and Adaptive Curriculum for
I've heard a
Excellence.
little bit about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So personalized, meaning that you understand that like you have two daughters. They're not the same. Brody
Not
and
even,
Jordan, they're very different personality.
not even close.
Not even close, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, think about it. Like you have two daughters. They're growing up, grew up, they had the same parents, but they're very different personality. Now, I'm teaching in a classroom. Do I expect that all the 19 students or 20 students are going to be same? They're not same. But our teacher's mindset is as such that all of them has to be same and they have to be no. So what happens immediately, the children's, and which is tenet number one in your model, that celebrate the person who they are. Now
Yeah.
let's say individuality. So let's say a child does not know times table properly and they're doing addition subtraction, or let's say they're doing grade 4 or 5 maths, right? Now if I shame that child, right? So what happens? That child does not ask me questions.
Goes into a shell.
That's right, exactly. And we are literally destroying that child's possibility to open up and ask questions that is very critical for that child's success. So when we are developing a personalized learning path, meaning we are giving the assurance and safety to that child that if you don't understand something, you can come and tell me, and I will adjust. It's a private institution, meaning we have the ability and resources to provide individual attention to a child,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So they get personalized attention. And when we're giving them, let's say, a different educational material, different worksheet, different kinds of assessment to so that they can scaffold. It is not compromised. The learning is not compromised, but it's scaffolded. In the process, if I need to change something, I will, and that is adaptive. So if you and Ted, you are a parent and grandparent, tell me, is there anybody in the world, and that is, and this is directly aligned to your work. Treat an individual for who they are, give them the dignity, give them the respect, and when it is needed to adapt, adapt,
That's right.
right? So we followed that curriculum.
It's something that in all
Mm,
my companies and all my businesses,
mhm,
we have one um, office, we have one manual that
mhm,
has one policy in it.
mhm,
And because most companies have these office policy manuals that are,
mhm,
so it has two words in that model:
mhm,
rigid, flexibility.
mhm, mhm,
Because we have to have structure.
mhm.
People need structure of some
Yes,
sort,
yes.
but we need the flexibility to
Mm,
step outside that structure from time to time
yeah, yeah.
and to accommodate.
Mhm,
Okay. But there also has to be a process in place
mhm,
that we don't enable,
mhm,
right? So that someone who might game the system, as we say,
mhm, mhm,
um, they're not, no, 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 you can't do that.
mhm,
You have to do this.
mhm.
And but there's words that you can use. So help me understand why you believe you can't do that instead of saying, don't be so stupid, you
Mhm,
can do that.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Or all the other kids are doing that. Why can't you do that? Like,
I mean, I have seen that in my entire teaching career and also working as a guidance counselor. The moment I sincerely, honestly respected a child, which tenet number one for you, that everybody wants to be celebrated, everybody wants to be recognized, everybody wants to be appreciated for who they are.
when I had my real estate company and I
Mhm,
would go around selling houses at the early part of my career in the
mhm,
70s,
mhm,
I would be going to someone's house and the mother, father would be there and there'd be one or two children. And so I would maybe have known the mother.
mhm,
So I will go and she'll say, "Oh, this is my husband, so and so." And the two kids are staying there and they start talking. And I stop right away and I said, "And who are these two?"
mhm,
And I go, and they some of them shy away and I say, "No, no, I'm Ted.
mhm,
What's your name?" And I point and I focus on them
mhm,
for a few seconds.
mhm, 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 Exactly.
and they beam.
Yep. 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 And you write that story beautifully in your book, that the story of why we cut the sides of the chicken.
The ends off the roast.
Yeah, ends of the roast, right?
Yeah.
So um, the thing is that, structures and traditions are important, but we also need to, and you have written brilliantly in your book, we don't question why. We don't question, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and this
mhm,
is something because I
mhm,
do intergenerational workplaces.
mhm, mhm,
So if we talked today about an intergenerational workplace, we
mhm,
talk to the younger generation says, ah, those old people don't know what they're talking about. The young, old person says, oh, young people don't know how to work. They don't do any work.
mhm,
But here's the key.
mhm,
Back in my day,
mhm,
I went into a job for 25 years, or they're supposed to. You get a gold watch, you retire. Kids nowadays in the world
mhm,
is you might have two permanent part-time jobs, mostly contract. It's all changed, right? So the young person goes into the workplace
mhm,
and is partnered with a mentor, one of the old people who've been there 20 years.
mhm,
This is what we do. So they say, okay, you got to put this over here. The young person says, why?
mhm,
The old person gets upset. Why? What do
mhm,
you mean, why? Because back in my day, if my dad said poop, I said, what color, how high, and where do you want it piled?
mhm,
Right?
mhm, mhm,
Nowadays, the younger generation says why. They're not being defiant
mhm,
by saying why. They have to understand. I believe, now again, I'm not a psychologist and I'm not as learned as you, but there's got to be some research done on the younger generation, and I keep getting mixed up the Z, the N, the whatever
mhm,
they are, but the younger generation needs to understand
mhm,
why
mhm,
before they can, and then they can buy into
mhm,
what they're doing. Here's one final point. So if the old person would just sit there
mhm,
and say, why? Well, I've never asked that.
mhm,
So let's both examine it.
mhm, mhm,
And believe it or not, there may be a different way of doing that specific task
mhm,
that the young eyes have brought to the old guy
mhm,
or woman.
mhm.
And all of a sudden, the business is improved.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I want to give one example that is very, very relevant to Bangladesh. Last year, we had a student uprising. It was not the veteran, old, the traditional people who ended the absolute suffocating environment for nearly no, over 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
It were the kids, generation Gen Z. I mean,
Yeah.
we have always looked down upon the Generation Z, saying that, oh, they are lazy, they don't do anything. But they have proved to the entire country what the adults couldn't do for 16 years. And and see where this is where we're heading. And this is why I keep saying that how your work has never been so important. And I don't say this because you're my friend and I really respect you and love you, not because of that. This is what it has come down to. Not a single head of the states in the world right now, if they are not living in cave, don't know a concept called universal basic income, UBI. Why is it so? Because the world's biggest survey institutions like McKinsey or Gardner, including World Bank, is that by 2030, we are going to have a job replacement of 800 million. 800 million jobs. There is a very famous interview uh, done by an Harvard University professor who studies automation, robotics, and economics. And he is
Yeah.
saying that by 2030, the automation, the robotics, they are going to generate an economy worth $100 trillion un,
So,
by 2030.
so are you suggesting by 2030
Hmm.
that there'll be enough money around to give everybody universal, or is that the goal, or is that should happen? Is that what
So,
you're saying?
so by 2030, there is going to be enough money that each person can be given not twice. I mean, they can be given universal basic income because, and this is where I'm saying that again, I want our audience and I want our parents to pay attention to this particular point. We have reached at a point of the technological progress where the right now there are factories already where it's the robots that they're working.
Yeah.
So meaning by 2030, if this is where it is, the most important investment in our children is to be able to understand their individuality, to celebrate their individuality, and learn how to be human in 2030. So it all comes down to this, that what does it mean to be a human in such a world where technology has literally replaced all the necessity of doing millions of jobs. It's not that the production is going to be there, not going
So
to be
are,
there. Yeah.
so I guess I'm my vision as
Mm,
this old guy
mm.
is that the future is returning to arts, culture, conversation,
Voila.
creativity,
Yeah,
and that I won't have to worry about going to the factory and doing
yeah,
this for
yeah,
60,000 a year.
yeah,
I will be able to support myself
yeah,
on 60,000 a year,
yeah.
but I will be able to pursue my human skills project if I want to be a painter, if I want to, whatever I want to do.
And the most important thing, in the words of Arthur Schopenhauer, that we all are porcupines. We don't know that how to stay together. So at that time, you see, when we had business to worry about, or money to be earned, it kept us occupied. Just imagine that at that time, the most important skill we each will need that how to coexist. And
That
that is not a curriculum that is currently taught in school system at all.
no, there's no human skills
That's
taught
right.
anyway.
That's right.
So so because the conversation is going in this direction,
Mm,
and I hope all of our videos will
mhm.
be free flowing,
Yeah,
just like we're talking
yeah,
about how to celebrate
yeah,
individual.
yeah.
What do we do about the 2%? What do we do about the multi trillionaire who wants to control and won't let go of his money? And I say his.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, I know what you mean. So the economists and policymakers, what they're saying, that you look at the history, anytime when there was a technological change, let's say when the steam engine came or the electricity came, it generated an enormous amount of wealth. But what it did not ensure that the society is run fairly by those who are making the most amount of money. So at this moment, when we're saying that this automation and all this robotics and everything is going to generate $100 trillion worth of economy, we do not have any guarantee whatsoever at all that the money that is earned is going to be distributed. And we have seen that last week there was a assassination in the United States, and we no longer, and this is why we say that, World School of Bangladesh is that, learn locally and be a global compassionate champion.
Right.
Our life is no longer limited into what locality you come from.
That's right.
Yeah. So at that time, do you see, Ted, when I say that your work at that time to learn how to be compassionate, to be caring, to be responsible, to be respectful towards each other, that is going to be our life's biggest challenge. And do we have a curriculum for that? Do we teach in elementary school, primary school? You tell me that if this is what is happening, tell me that, please tell me, do you think that our Canadian public education system or America, tell me which public education system you see is actually ready to deal with this?
No, they aren't. They're still doing the old rote, we got to be in a classroom of 30 people.
Hmm.
It's all about this. What can we afford?
Hmm.
And I think we're still on the idea of turning out
Hmm.
the robot
Hmm.
human
Hmm.
to do exactly what they're told.
Hmm.
I mean, that's the whole, not to get political, but the whole Christian fundamentalist nationalism is
Mhm.
want to bring everybody back into the patriarchal way of
Mhm.
these are the 10 rules, the 10
Mhm.
commandments. You do these or
Mhm.
you're going to hell.
Mhm.
That, what I'm hoping in the future is the
Mhm.
people, when they learn the human skills,
Mhm. Mhm.
will not be a threat or a danger
Mhm.
to the power mongers,
Mhm.
but will be able to show the power mongers that there's a different way to be.
Yep, yep. And it has already started happening that, first there was a student uprising in Bangladesh, and the then Prime Minister had to flee the country. And now we have an interim government. We are waiting for another election. Um, the same thing happened in Myanmar. The
Yes, it
students
just
took to
happened.
the, yeah, they took to the street. And so what it means that um, we never had to face this enormous challenge that what does it mean to be a human? So we needed to train human robots who just listen to us and do exactly what we tell them. But what we do now. So from that perspective, it is important to teach in K-12 education to college to university that understand that your kids ability to understand their own emotion, to understand what they're feeling, to understand. One of the things that I can speak to you with evidence and confidence and in experience that we do not let our kids express their feeling at all.
I know.
We don't.
If you keep crying, I'm going to give you something to cry for. That's a
Mhm.
terminology I was brought up.
Mhm.
You know, oh, my arm hurts. Oh, what do you mean it hurts? Just get outside and go play.
Mhm.
And that's part of we can do this in another episode if you want,
Mhm.
but I think we should really concentrate on a feel, felt, found, because that's
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of when you look at the trust and build the trust.
Mhm.
I've got to validate your right to feel. That's very, very important. Even if I think what you're feeling is ridiculous, the key is to think outwardly, not inwardly. And the idea is I will validate your right to feel anything you want. And that doesn't mean I agree with it. It just
Mhm.
means, wow, to feel that must be awful. Or, gee, I never thought of that.
Mhm.
Again, different words.
Mhm.
And then, and yeah, that's very, very, very important.
And how do we, in that case, my question to you is that in such a scenario, what do you envision the um, education system, some of the humanistic. So please tell us, based on your work, that how can we bring humanistic education with the law of cooperative action in a K-12 setting?
I think first of all, again, celebrating the individual,
Mhm.
setting basic rules of decorum, because once they understand, and also understand there's going to be the odd 2%er in there who is an outlier.
Mhm. Mhm.
So the tools on how to deal with them are
Mhm.
important.
Mhm.
You know, uh, Figuring out why they're doing what they're doing, because there's some history there, there's
Mhm.
something going
Mhm.
on,
Mhm.
something. And I mean, it could be chemical,
Mhm.
but then we work that out. We figure that out,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Instead of all of a sudden popping a pill with somebody, right?
Mhm.
You figure it out.
Mhm.
The second thing is changing the curriculum
Mhm.
to a curriculum that allows excitement,
Mhm.
individual. For example, I read that, and you may know this.
Mhm.
There's a way of teaching, and I don't know the words for it, but so today, everyone, open to page 34. We're going to learn about the Holocaust,
Mhm.
and that's a memory. That's a
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
Instead, okay, today, everyone, we're going to learn about the Holocaust. There are 20 of you here, so I want you broken down into 5 different groups.
Mhm.
I want you to go away for the afternoon in these groups, and
Mhm.
I want you to research,
Mhm.
do it, and I want you to come back tomorrow,
Mhm.
and I want you to do a 5 to 6 minute play
Mhm.
on what you believe the Holocaust is,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
sort of act it out as a
Mhm.
group.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
The engagement of that will be fantastic.
Yep, exactly,
And
exactly.
the
Mhm.
learning,
Mhm.
instead of memorize 6 million Jews, whatever, the Nazis, no.
Mhm.
And then they'll put their interpretation
Mhm.
on what they believe the Holocaust
Mhm.
is. which will bring up a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other groups would say, so why did you attack it this way? Why did you do it that way? Well, because we thought
Mm-hmm.
that's the engagement, the
Mm-hmm.
dialogue. We
Mm-hmm.
don't do dialogue. It's too easy to hide on this thing,
Mm-hmm.
to say visceral things on this thing, because I'm not standing in front of you. So that's part of that's how I would. I don't know if that's right or not.
Oh,
I'm just
what you said, I can just use some pedagogical terminology to that. So, in the teaching practice, this is called social and emotional learning. It is called embodied learning, meaning you are trying to understand that what these people in Rwanda must have felt when the Hutus and Tutsi were fighting each other.
yeah,
When the partition happened, as I'm speaking to you, I'm getting goosebumps that when the partition happened, that families who have been together for generations and generations, all of a sudden somebody draws a line and you're in that side of the border, I'm in this side of the border. This is one of the so far our education has been text basis. It was not transformative at all.
right.
What you are talking about with law of cooperative action is that it is possible implementing your humanistic model to bring transformation. And without this transformation, if we still try to do the text, we will never be able to beat machines in text or technology or in technique.
And with all the technology
Yeah.
that can be used. So in the old days, you had to go through the text,
Mm,
memorize,
mm,
highlight.
mm,
Nowadays, so let's go search the Holocaust.
mhm,
So everybody goes online into
mm,
their computers, and then
mm,
so now they piece together the different avenues that
mhm,
each have gotten.
mhm. Yeah, exactly, exactly. We don't have to remember the dates. We don't have to remember the number because those dates and numbers, they remain as abstract text that doesn't touch my heart. We have an education system that mechanically tries to train the head and it doesn't touch the heart. And
That's right.
therefore, we become extremely skilled head with a blind heart.
In sales training, we used to have, when you write on someone's forehead when you're trying to sell something,
Mhm,
is the word two words "so what" on their forehead.
mhm,
Because if you're talking, for example, you try to sell a car. Well, this is an engine that goes blah, blah, 20 RPMs. Instead of saying, here are the keys, get in the car and feel what
mhm,
it's like to be
mhm,
behind that wheel.
mhm,
That's what we need to do with the education system.
mhm,
Instead of talking about all the stats,
mhm,
we need to say, what would it feel like
mhm,
to have been a slave?
mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I can literally, and this is what I plan to do, hopefully, is that as I take from excerpts from your book, is that you will see that to what extent your work is connected to the entire model of teaching and learning in our system. We are talking about the transformation where the children will be able to realize their potential and have the freedom, have the right to become what lurks inside them, what stays inside them.
Be prepared, though, my
Mm,
dear, dear friend Feroz,
mhm,
that the system
mhm,
guardians
mhm,
will constantly be telling us,
mhm,
but what if, but
mhm,
what about,
mhm,
but what,
mhm, mhm,
because every time you see something,
mhm,
or every time someone says something, because I've done this with, you
mhm,
know, like I'll call someone up and say, hey, do you want to go to the show tonight? Well, what about, what if we,
mhm,
no, no, no. The question was, do you want to go to the show tonight? The answer is yes or no. If
mhm,
the answer is no,
mhm,
conversation's over. If
mhm,
the answer is yes, let's figure out how to get there.
mhm,
And so what you're going to get, I think, from the system,
mhm,
which is going to be, using the skills of the law of cooperative action in the model to be able to show the
Mhm.
system
Mhm.
that that little 2% thing that's lurking there that could go wrong,
Mhm.
we can handle.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
insignificant. That's
yeah.
insignificant. We
That's
can handle,
insignificant.
but
Exactly.
don't stop
Mhm.
progress
Mhm.
because of that.
Yep, exactly. And our kids are being trained to give examination under Cambridge International Examination, Cambridge University,
Yeah.
meaning Cambridge University has enough resources to understand that how dynamically the world is changing and they're changing their curriculum. We do not have any problem with the preparation. It's basically right now we are actively involved in talking to the parents and teachers and just because I again I tell you, Ted, the kids are wonderful when you give them the chance to thrive.
They're
The biggest hard,
sponges.
yeah,
They're sponges. They just soak it up.
yeah. For example, one of the things that I tell to the kids, to the parents as well, I said, look, these kids are miracle in their capacity to learn. What I'm telling you, and I say this to teachers as well, do not restrict their ability to learn. Like, for example, we just showed our kids the history of, the Prince of Egypt, like a movie
Yeah.
that shows the life of Prophet Moses, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You see, just watching the animation movie, the kids understood so vividly that what was the mythological story, what happened, and how all that thing came into being. And then you ask the kids to give a presentation, you'll be blown away. But you ask the same, what you just said, and how we implement it. If you just said, okay, fine, go memorize the story of Pharaoh and what happened and all of that, what are you doing? We just finished watching a movie on the life of Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Now, the kids are learning what it meant to become Muhammad Ali from Cassius Clay. So, through that, they're beginning to learn the life of Black people in the United States.
Mhm.
They're beginning to learn the history of slavery. Again, it's a feeling. So, what you said in the beginning, we're coming back to that education where individuality, personality, feeling, all of these things are connected. And there I will show that how your work is connected.
And you know what? We don't know the potential of every kid. I don't know
Mm,
whether I shared this with you in
mm,
grade 9
mm,
here in Canada.
mm.
I was told I wasn't smart enough to go to university.
Yeah.
So I was relegated to the 4-year course,
Mhm,
not the university course.
mhm,
And here I am today,
mhm,
50 some odd years, 60 some odd years later.
mhm,
I've 5 books.
mhm,
I have a degree in sociology because I
mhm,
went as an adult.
mhm.
And every kid has the potential.
Yeah.
Every soul has the potential to be way more than what we think they are.
Speaking.
Even,
Mm,
the research now that I understand is kids who have autism
mhm,
or Down syndrome.
mhm,
If we connect to the brain, part of the brain that works, that connects with them, sorry,
mhm,
that part of
mhm.
the brain connects with them, they can live a very productive life, and some even genius level in music and
Mhm,
math.
mhm.
But no, in the past it was like, no, you got to do it this way. Well, I can't do it that way because I can't see the numbers the way you see the numbers.
That's right. That's right. And in Bangladesh, let's say if a kid is writing with left hand, you do not understand the kind of social stigma. Like my son writes with left hand, and I know that on a daily basis, you write with left hand.
I'm
Um,
left-handed. Yeah.
yeah, my youngest one, he writes with left hand, and I constantly have to educate people around him, saying that it is not a problem if a kid writes with left hand. It's okay. You just 2 weeks ago, a kid in Canada, a ninth grader kid, used artificial intelligence to find out advanced ways of diagnosing pancreatic cancer, and he won some kind of award, etc.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so things are happening. So a ninth grader is coming up with very sophisticated ways of diagnosing and a pancreatic cancer that is literally wowing the medical establishment. And here we are setting our kids thinking that it is some kind of like a stick figure and there is a software in here. No, that's not how schools are going to run.
Here's something to tell
Mm,
your son,
mhm, mhm.
okay? Because he'll get so you know how one side of your brain controls the other side of your body.
Yeah, yeah.
Left-handed people are the only people in their right mind.
Well,
So he's special.
yeah, exactly. And speaking of that, the right side of the brain, it is you'll find out people who are, and there's actually a book in that. It's called The Master and the Emissary, that how the left brain and the right brain is that the right side of the brain deals with feelings, emotions, creativity, sensitivity. Right side of the brain looks at the world holistically. And the left side of the brain is analytical. By the way, what we think as left side of the right side is basically not the physical left side of the
Yeah,
right side.
yeah,
It's just two different systems
yeah.
of how our brain works. And Oxford professor, he's world-renowned neuroscientist. His name is Ian McGilchrist. His book is called Master and the Emissary. His book is considered as important as Darwin's, theory of evolution.
Yeah.
Said that we have trained our left brain system so badly that our feeling brain, our relational brain, our holistic brain, our connection brain, we have almost destroyed it. And he says, if we do not bring back our ability to see the world holistically, which you say in your book that everything, can you speak to that, please?
I mean, how it's all connected, interconnected, or
Yeah.
yeah, everything is. I mean, if you look at because again, when we became sentient beings,
Mm,
we believed we were separate from everything.
mm,
And then, of course, when religion
mm,
came into play,
mm,
that even separated us more from
mm,
everything else, right? But we are just animals that think and talk differently than other animals.
mm,
We are, if you look outside,
mm,
the plants,
mm,
the trees, the sky, everything works. And I guess that's why some people believe in a God because they believe who could create that except a God, which is fine. It's fine, right? But the point is that we're part of that creation.
mm,
And when you don't see a red rose telling a yellow rose it should be redder
mm,
or more yellow, everything blooms as an individual, but as a piece of music
mm,
plays amazingly with each other.
mm,
And if we realize we are
mm.
interconnected and interdependent, the only reason you and I are sitting here right now is because we're connected to gravity.
That's right.
The only reason why we're able to do what we're doing is because we're breathing
Hmm.
oxygen.
Hmm. Hmm.
We're not separate.
Exactly. Right.
And we're in the same stream, as I've said in the book. We're interconnected and interdependent.
Hmm.
Something that well, there's what's it? It's the butterfly effect,
Hmm. That's right. That's right.
right?
Yeah.
And once we realize that,
Hmm.
that means if I lie to you, I'm lying to me.
That's right.
If I
That's
hit
right.
you, I hit
That's
me.
right. That's right.
If
That's
I
right.
mess with you, I mess with me.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And when we teach our kids that, that's where we teach them empathy and everything else like that.
Hmm.
There's a term I use because we talk about ego, right? I
Hmm.
put an M in front of ego.
Hmm.
It's mego. It's the mego. It's me who gets upset. It's me who gets annoyed. It's me who gets it. Me who gets. Once we're able to silence the mego,
Hmm.
we are able to then be an integral part of everything else, along with being individual
Hmm.
within that interconnectedness.
Right. What you just said right now, the indigenous people say it. You can look at the word egotistically, which is like egocentrism, or you can look at the word ecocentrically, eco, because you are not apart from anything. And by the way, Ian McGilchrist, he also goes in depth about it, is that religion has been very badly abused. If you think about the traditional history of spirituality, it doesn't matter what tradition you come from, you see the richness of how it and the storytelling, right? So it wasn't necessary, right? So and with that, probably with the right brain and left brain system, what he says is that if we do not know how to connect back, we will not exist as a species. If we do
Right.
not see our connection to water, to air, to people, to everybody.
And I'm afraid I do my best to be positive, but
Mhm,
sometimes I'm concerned about
mhm,
um, someone pressing that button and
mhm,
are
mhm.
doing something that's going to. I mean, the Earth will always be here,
Yeah.
and
Only
we'll
the
always
humans
be
won't be
here in some
here,
form.
you know.
We'll be in some form or another.
Yeah,
But my concern is
yeah,
that
yeah,
someday,
yeah,
and
exactly.
that's a goal I have. I mean, it's
Mm,
a major goal I have.
mm,
I hope
mm.
that the project we're doing, this human skills project,
Yeah.
will do our best to ensure a
Mhm.
continuity
Yeah,
and a growth
yeah,
in humans.
yeah. You summarized it. That, I mean, what our school, we are committed to raise humans, not just some kind of, I don't know,
Obe-
mechanical,
Obedient
yeah,
worker.
yeah, obedient. And also, if you train your child in doing that, that is the most devastating thing for your child because the obedient worker is no longer required. What is needed? Humans are required, right? So
Yeah.
we will continue the discussion in the next episode, and this has definitely been a very engaging and probably a longer episode than the other episodes. Ted, thank you very much, and until we talk again, everybody take care and bye bye, Ted.
Bye. See you soon.